Warning, the following video is rated M for if you're young, you shouldn't watch this, so viewer discretion is advised. But hey, I won't tell if you won't. The following video is going to contain a crap ton of spoilers. Go figure, it's in the title of the video. You have been warned. I don't know what you're expecting. It's in the title, okay? Big spoilers, big spoilers! Well, I hope you're ready for a long, ranting, and confusing time. Sit down, pop a squat, alright? We're gonna be here for a while, y'all, because Persona 5 is one massive game. Over 100 hours long of just pure unfiltered content, and there's a lot to talk about, and a lot of stuff that I actually have never personally been able to talk about because spoilers. Yes, I know, it's such a big, tender word when it comes to the Persona community because the games are so story-focused. I know what you guys are thinking. Holy crap, this video is 6 months late. That is not true. I wanted this video to be much farther down the line after Persona 5 came out, mainly because it gives some people time to play through the entire game to put their 2 cents into the conversation. The Persona series is a franchise very famous for its longevity. The fandom is always alive and well and ready to talk about anything. You know, it's a very timeless type of game. So no, this video is not too late. There is never not a time to scream about Persona and whatnot.
Someone say Persona 5!
Oh my god, who are you?
I am the ghost of Persona Past. I am known as the one who screams, the one who fangirls, the one who draws, the sweet, sweet yaoi.
No, shut up. You're that Shenpai chick who won't shut up about Persona. I've heard about you. Also, why do you sound like me?
Oh, I've been exposed about!
Let me guess. Let me take a wild guess here for a second. You want to be in the video and talk about your feelings about Persona 5, am I right?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So what you're just gonna do is interject your thoughts and feelings just randomly throughout the video?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Okay, fine. You're on board. All right, sit down, shut up, let's do this. Sweet! Anyway! So with all that crap being said, we're gonna be talking about a lot of things. What certain meanings were, what Persona 5 did right, what it did wrong, some general thoughts about all the deets, the characters, the story, the plot, the big twists, the turns, anything that just happens to pop into our heads. Now, I do actually have some notes written down, surprisingly. Not all of this is off the top of my head, but forgive me if this video does seem a little all over the place and stuff. Like I said, Persona 5 is an incredibly long game. I'm not gonna be able to cover everything. I will leave stuff out. I will brush over things, but please feel free to add your thoughts and such in the comments to fill the void. There's definitely a ton of stuff in Persona 5 I personally did not experience, and you probably did, so please let me know what I missed, your thoughts, your feelings, and stuff. Come on, guys, this is a group effort after all. And to all you lovely people who watch my content regardless of what it is, I really, really do appreciate y'all, but please do not watch this video if you have not played Persona 5, because I'm gonna talk right over your heads. All this is gonna sound like gibberish. And to all you lovely people, one, go watch Persona 5 for beginners, or go ahead and check out my spoiler-free review of Persona 5, where I talk about the game in general and my personal thoughts and feelings about it without all the nitty-gritty details and stuff. I'll give you a hint, sneak peek, I really like the freaking game. So yeah, there you go. Go ahead and check it out. Other than that, get the heck out, alright? I don't want you here. You don't like Persona? Get out. Bye. Bye-bye, y'all! So let's just jump straight into the thick of things, alright? Is Persona 5 a dark game or what? A weird place to start off, I understand that. But the Persona series is known for being relatively mature. And say what you want about Shin Megami Tensei being dark and mature and all that crap, but Persona is a relatively grounded series when it comes to some of its subject matter. And like other Persona games, has a very in-your-face tone and message and theme. Obviously, the biggest factor is the color red, which coincides with the base theme of freedom. Something that is seen throughout the game. It's a huge message. Yeah. Freedom and rebellion. That's the big thing with Persona 5. You know, you're breaking free of the chains of society, alright? You're rebelling against the man, the system. And that theme and tone is shown off a lot by dealing with a lot of the more darker underbelly parts of society. There are drug deals within the game. There's a girl who tries to kill herself in the first few hours. There's abusive, forced relationships and marriages. People just straight up die. Emotional, physical abuse from teachers, sexual. There's a lot of sexual themes and abuse throughout this entire game. These are all situations that are incredibly adult that the main cast has to end up dealing with. So Persona 5 gets very real very fast, but I can't say that the game gets relatively dark. I would say that the game's tone is incredibly aggressive because, yeah, there are sad, terrible things happening, but the vibe is not to dwell on this sadness or self-pity like in, say, Persona 3, but to do something about it, to take action, to break free. It's how the characters decide to respond to the terrible things that are happening that set the tone of the game, not so much the things that are happening, you know, terrible, dark, sad, depressing things, with just some awful people, let me just say. But Persona 5 focuses more on the dealing of the situation rather than the characters' inner thoughts, and they use the the dungeon setup for this game to get their main point across. The dungeons, aka palaces, focus on the villain's heart, but they are only really there to give you something to rally against, because the villains aren't particularly the main focus here. It's how the characters handle the villains. That is what we're supposed to be paying attention to. But I think people tend to get a little confused as to what they're supposed to be focusing on when it comes to the main message of the game, because one thing I constantly hear is that the villains are cartoonishly evil, are not well written. And to that I say, yes, they are cartoonishly evil, but that is for two reasons. One, we don't get to see what they are like in the real world that much, since most of their interactions are with the Phantom Thieves. 90% of the time when we are engaging with the villains of the story, they are in the metaverse, and that's not a clear perspective as to what they actually act like. And because we deal with them the most in the metaverse, we are going to see them at their worst. Their heart is their twisted desire. The world is a part of themselves. It's supposed to be straight up evil. That's the whole concept of it. That's why we're going in to steal their treasures, because their desire has been so twisted that they've turned into a point blank an asshole in real life. And I like to think the overzealous evil of the villains is supposed to represent the evils that the Phantom Thieves are supposed to break free of. Now, if you really want to stretch this here and want to go for like 9th grade English analysis, you could say that the main cast is breaking free of the 7 deadly sins, because if you kind of look at it the right way, a lot of the palaces coincide with the 7 deadly sins on a loose level. Kamoshida's dungeon represents lust, Haru's father's palace represents gluttony, Tubby Bank God represents greed, go figure, in a bank, and then Shido's palace represents pride. And again, these are incredibly long stretches. It's not exactly like, oh my god, holy crap, it totally represents that. But the main cast is trying to fight those sins, and it's in the duality that helps build these characters, to enhance their struggles and their desires to fight back. Having a meaning of rebellion is a lot easier to get behind if it's for the greater good. Now, even though Persona 5 has some very straightforward moral decisions, like I said, not a lot of gray area, I do like how the main characters kind of deal with the situation or the opportunity that they are given. In the beginning of the game, when you find out about the metaverse and you're told about its effect by Morgana, he mentions that, if you end up stealing the treasure, it has the possibility of killing the host. And after the main cast learns that bit of information, they're kind of hesitant to go after Kamoshida's heart, because it's like, oh my god, what if he dies? And then they're like, well, there's no strings attached, so maybe we should go for it. And they're very on the fence about it. And then What's-Her-Face tries to kill herself, and then after that situation, they realize that Kamoshida is a person that they really don't care lives or dies. They will take that risk to stop him. And I really like the conviction of that moment, mainly because if you were given the opportunity to change someone's heart with no strings attached, but it had the slight possibility of killing them, but you wouldn't get caught, would you do it? And let's be honest with ourselves, yeah, we would take that opportunity, especially if you're dealing with an absolute dirtbag. It was a moment that I thought was very realistic, and it helped me rally with the Phantom Thieves. And also, I guess while I'm on the topic of the palaces of Persona 5, here is how I would personally rate my experience in each palace. I can say that all of the palaces were super fun. I love how they brought something unique to the table, but Kumura's palace can suck it big time, because I hated that vent puzzle. I got stuck on that thing for so terribly long. And I know there's probably a simple solution to it, and I'm just a thick-skulled Neanderthal who doesn't know how buttons work, but I got stuck in there for a long time, and also, I thought the boss was lazy. I didn't like the fact that there was just a bunch of enemies you had to go through, and then you just kick him in the pants, and then ta-da, he's done. Definitely can say that was the lowest point for the game for me. But I loved how unique each palace was when it came to some of its puzzles, the casino, and how you had to work with all the chips and stuff to access the areas. The mouse puzzles were really cool, as drawn out as Shido's palace was. I still enjoyed it, and as a collective whole, Persona 5 really hit a home run when it came to its level design and its structure of how it handles its palaces. It is hands down the highlight of the game. Now, the palaces are really important when it comes to, the general gameplay, and specifically the story. I talked about themes and the importance of stuff and how it helps develop the characters. But I can't say that Persona 5's palaces are as insightful as Persona 4's when it comes to developing a character and expanding on the story more. Mainly because of the choice that Persona 5 made to center the dungeons around the villains rather than the characters.
The Persona franchise is known for its vast variety of characters. May it be side characters or your own teammates, it's very important that you have a established character development for each and every single one of them.
As we all know, the dungeons of Persona 4 revolved around the main cast and their wants and their desires and their secret selves. And because of how that was set up, Persona 4 will automatically have more insight on the main cast's feelings and thoughts and intentions, and will have a lot more fleshed out moments, way more development because of this setup.
The first two characters that you get to meet in Persona 5 are Ryuji and Anne, who both have to deal with Kamoshida's shit. While Kamoshida managed to make Ryuji lash out, he decided to harass Anne, who only stayed with him because of Shio's situation. The next character on the roster is Yusuke with Madarame. We learn about his distrust for the main character, along with how he handles the plagiarism that is kept secret. Afterwards was Makoto with Kaneshiro, whose big deal was to protect the students from the dangers of the mafia and her pressure of her role in her school as a student council president. So after we get through that entire fest, we have Futaba, whose palace is actually one of the most strongest character developments because it takes aspects from Persona 4.
In fact, Futaba's palace is almost identical to how Persona 4 does their dungeons, because you were seeing Futaba's suppressed feelings and memories and her darker self, her shadow, if you will. I mean, her twisted desire is basically her shadow. I don't see how much different they are. And I can confidently say because of this is why Futaba comes off as one of the more interesting characters, but because Persona 5 focuses on the villains and deals with the characters going against the villains rather than just the characters themselves and how they personally feel about things. There's no, magnifying glass on how they truly feel. P4's cast will feel more fleshed out than Persona 5's, but I'm not going to dock the game because it's not like Persona 4. If anything, I prefer how Persona 5 handles these things. People have complained that Persona 5's cast does not feel as fleshed out as Persona 4's, and I think this is the reason why. It is because of the palace/dungeon setup.
Since Persona 5 was my very first Persona game, I didn't have anything to compare it to, so all the resolves for their awakenings were actually building up to be amazing. It was shaping their character. It was making these characters that you saw as nothing to have this amazingness built up inside of them that suddenly just burst free in the form of a persona.
If anything, I'm really glad that Persona 5 did not directly just kind of copy and paste some of the stuff Persona 4 did, at least when it came to the palaces. Other things, not so much, and I'm gonna get into that. Basically, Persona 5 has really strong, palpable themes and more intense situations because of its dungeon setup, instead of focusing on the character's inner thoughts. It goes for a bigger, grander, existential situation rather than an internal one, if that makes sense. Now, without going and maxing out the main character's cast and looking at the general overall plot of the game without considering any of the optional information that we get, is Persona 5's cast better than Persona 4's? And to that, I'm not gonna answer because it's really up to personal preference. Granted, Persona 4's cast is incredibly hard to top, but I can say that I think P5's cast is really, really well-rounded. I didn't feel polarized by anybody in the main cast as compared to Persona 4, where Teddy can really get on people's nerves, Yukiko is just really vibrant cardboard, and yada yada yada. I can confidently say that Persona 5 is an incredibly likable cast, and I know a lot of people have fan favorites, but I think a part of their likability comes in the fact that they played a little safe. Each character is essentially kind of a baity archetype.
The biggest problem that I had with Persona 5, which I didn't notice at first, is that character development completely disappeared after the characters' palaces. And she was completely fallen off afterwards. Ryuji was shoved into the comedic relief category. Yusuke was just another voice, and Makoto received the special snowflake treatment. You guys see where I'm going with this?
There just isn't a lot of risk with the cast. It's very safe for the most part, but I'm not complaining because, again, the cast is super, super likable. I didn't dislike anybody. When taking a risk, you always do have that problem of, well, if it's something that's kind of outlandish, then people are going to dislike it. And P5 doesn't particularly have that problem, although I can say that the game does do some weird stuff with the cast that I feel like is a massively missed opportunity. Because yeah, I do feel like the cast is a little bit safe. That's mainly because we don't see much of their characters that aren't phantom thieves. I did mention this in my spoiler-free review as well, and I'm bringing it up again because now I can elaborate a little more on it. There are several opportunities where Persona 5 just drops the ball, and I was honestly incredibly disappointed by some of these moments. This is the part of the game where I feel like the game could have benefited from taking a few notes from Persona 4. To name a few of these situations, the school trip. The school trip is like super short. I was kind of shocked. I mean, it's 2 days, not much really happens. There's some stuff with Mishima, that's fine, that's cool, but not a lot of growing moments, not a lot of bonding moments. You're just in and then you're out. I was honestly shocked how short it was. Nothing really happens at the fireworks show. They show up, it rains, and then they go home. That's the end of that. There's when they go to the amusement park for the first time after attending the trip at the TV studio, and all they really do is stand around, talk, and then they leave. You don't see them interact at all. And then definitely the worst offense to this is when they go to the amusement park a second time, but this time they have the entire place rented out for themselves. They get there, they have dinner, oh no, my dad died, and then they heckin' leave. And I'm just, what was the point of this? I mean, talk about waste potential, guys. I mean, there are so many times that the game sets up these cool hangout moments, like say in Persona Persona 4 when they go to the beach or on their school trip and stuff like that. They set up these moments and then they don't do anything with them. Now, don't get me wrong, Persona 5 is already a super long game, and adding these extra story moments is just padding at this point, but it sure does feel like that if Persona 5 were to have an extended edition like Persona 4 Golden, this is where they could easily be adding extra content to help fuel a better friend dynamic, to see the cast interact with each other more outside of Phantom Thief stuff. I like to see the cast as friends, and these situations are just lackluster in comparison to other games. Honestly, I think Persona 3 does this even better than Persona 5. Now, don't get me wrong, the game does have its really fun and memorable moments where there is definitely some character bonding, but it can easily benefit from more of them since there are so many opportunities. I'm serious, just replay through the game and tell me how many times something just feels like it's cut short. Now, I know it seems like I'm being a little hypocritical comparing Persona 5 to Persona 4 so much. Does Persona 5 need to be more like Persona 4's cast? No, but there is no downside to getting to know the characters more to get a feel of a unique dynamic amongst the group. I just wanted them to give us more to separate this cast from Persona 4, since at times the cast can feel like they're just revamped versions of past games with way less more to work with. And the bulk of the Persona 5's cast dynamic is with the Phantom Thieves, and I'll admit that's when they are at their strongest, but even then, that has some very funky stuff that I was not 100% happy with. Yes, hello, hi everybody, welcome to Writing 101. Today we are going to be talking about the third story arc, Internal Conflict, something I'm sure you're all very familiar with at this point. You know when movies make main characters hate each other before the final battle just so they can come back in the nick of time stronger than ever and then beat the big old baddie? You know, that very predictable story trope that should just stop happening because it's not fun anymore? Well, Persona 5 took the bait, and they decided to do this with Morgana and Ryuji around Okumura's palace. And listen, I'm okay with this trope when it's done right, but it just seems like Atlus forgot to have a proper build-up, and Ryuji and Morgana are just terrible to each other out of the blue. I'm guessing it's for that dramatic tension that I've been hearing so much about, but this story does not really need this.
The entire situation and scene wasn't even handled well. Morgana had an outlash on the cast when they didn't even know of his troubles, and Ryuji was blamed for all of it when he didn't even know. Of course, Ryuji's an idiot, and yes, he's loud, but it seemed just too easy to put the blame into his shoes. The entire situation didn't even lead up to a great introduction for Haru. Yeah, it was funny for like 2 seconds, and that was it. Other than that, it was terrible.
And this is for a few reasons. 1, it's super out of character. 2, we know it won't last, so what's the frickin' point? And 3, it makes the characters look bad. And I can confidently say this was the lazy point in the game for me.
So, alright, maybe we didn't get the character development that we wanted from the storyline, so maybe going into their confidant, would help out the situation. Nope! I was wrong. Now, the issue that I have with Persona 5 is, of course, it's a more serious game compared to Persona 4, but you can already see it from the name of the social links that in this game are called confidants, is that they're not actually friends. They're just people that you keep secrets with. And I had problems that confidants felt less personalized than social links did. Every confidant was focusing on you going into the metaverse at the end for some random person that just came out of nowhere. Even if you want to know more about the character you decide to spend your time with, you don't even get to know more about them. You do for like 1 or 2 ranks, and then you suddenly get this side character that's introduced that you don't even really want to care about. But they make you care about them because the character you're hanging out with cares about them. And it's just this vicious cycle that you don't want to take part of. Just to give an example, Anne's entire confidant revolved around her wanting to become a better person, but by doing that, she was talking herself down because of this stupid bitch named Mika. Who gives a f*** about Mika? Who is she? Why is she here? Why does Anne think she's better than her? We don't know. Next to Anne's confidant, we have Ryuji. In the first few, you realize that he's an abuse victim and that he's a poor babu who, didn't deserve what he got. But it suddenly turns out that he only cares about talking to his sports team members and resolving something with people who are actually assholes. Why? Makoto's was pretty much also as bad. I know that she is the prime waifu, but it still felt stretched to act like her boyfriend and then care about this girl named Aiko who didn't even want to listen to Makoto in the first place. I know she's the student council president and wants the best for the students, but I didn't want to have her confidant rely on this one girl that, up on her own accord. I want to know more about you, Makoto, and your past, and your sister, not about this random girl! The only confidants I can really give props to were Yusuke, Futaba, and Haru. When it came to Yusuke, it started good, but then it ended up with the Kawanabe guy who insulted his painting and made him doubt himself, which is actually personally good because you once again delve into a character development that made him figure out his own resolve. The same was with Futaba, where she made this list to better herself and you wanted to engage it more. And then in the end, she cared more about Kana, only to send you back into the metaverse, which is honestly quite annoying. At this point, I was dreading reach the end of every confidant. And last but not least is Haru's confidant, which was actually good because it dealt with a character that was already implemented into the story as Sugimura, the fiance of her. And it didn't just add in a random character because you were already familiar with how much of a piece of he is. You wanted to actually get to know more about it and if she actually got with him or not. The only problem with it's kind of a waste because of her late appearance. And this is exactly where I'm gonna bring back to Persona 4 social links. All of them had their own resolve focused on their own personality and finding themselves and bettering themselves and their relationship towards the main character, while Persona 5 didn't really have that. And I thought that was what was missing. You feel more connected to them in Persona 4 than you do in Persona 5 because it's all about them and not because of some random person. And I think that's sad. Confidants compared to social link do not feel like solid friends. They seem just like people you're gonna be acquaintance with and then forget in 2 weeks. Well, anyways, that's all I gotta say about that.
Thank you, Shenpai. Moving on! Now, Persona 5 does definitely have its fair share of big plot points, twists, and turns. And I guess while we're on the topic of characters and whatnot, allow me to interject some little information here. Agoro Akechi is a bad person. Akechi is hands down one of the most pivotal characters in the entire plot. And because of that, he is definitely a major standout and a big fan favorite amongst people. And I know saying the statement, Akechi is a bad person, is gonna ruffle some feathers here, but listen, you can like his character, you can enjoy his character, you can say he's interesting, you can understand him, you can understand his motives, but Akechi is a bad person. He kills people, like a lot of people. He's a bad boy. He's not good. Now, I can totally understand why people tend to gravitate towards Akechi as a character because, yeah, he is definitely one of the most complex out of the entire cast. He is the counter to Joker. He is the main cause of all the trouble. Now, Shido is supposed to be the main big baddie villain that isn't God, but honestly, he's just a jerk. He doesn't have a lot of complexity. He's just an egotistical maniac, if you will. And he's not exactly the most elaborate puppet master I've ever seen. And this is just a little shout out. Did anyone else notice that one of Shido's final boss forms looked like Armstrong from Metal Gear Rising Revengeance? Because, you know, they're really similar in personality, they're politicians, they talk up themselves, yada yada yada, and they also beefy as hell. Tender. I digress. And a lot of people come to Akechi's defense because it's like, oh yeah, it's Baldy Daddy that was manipulating him the whole time. His decisions were all influenced by that, blah 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 blah. And I don't think that's good enough. I really don't. All he really wanted was Daddy's approval, and that's kind of it. And the lengths he went to do that is outrageous. The guy is just not right in the head. Yes, Akechi does have a lot of emotional damage, and that does make him very complicated, but his decisions were all of his own. I don't like pushing the blame onto Shido. It just doesn't feel right. Akechi is calculated. He is ruthless. He knew what he was doing. Okay, I don't have much sympathy for him. He got what he deserved. A blasphemous statement, I'm aware, but also one thing that has definitely caught my eye, and I'm a little confused as to why people are freaking out about this when it comes to some of the bigger plot twists and whatnot. If you were somehow surprised that Akechi was the traitor, are you okay? Like, I'm legitimately asking, are you okay? Because it's painfully obvious. Like, from day one, Akechi does not like the Phantom Thieves. He is openly critical of the Phantom Thieves throughout the entire time, antagonizing them, stating his motives, blah, 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 blah. And then suddenly he turns a new leaf and then becomes the traitor. Shocker, surprise. We know there was a traitor from day one. Gee, I wonder who it could be. Is it the guy who says he doesn't like the Phantom Thieves? If you ask me, when it comes to this little surprise, the twist is the lack of twist. If anything, the twist is how they trick Akechi into thinking he killed Joker with the whole metaverse illusion thing. Because all of that pivotal information is hidden from the audience until the big reveal, because, you know, for a split second you think Joker actually dies. Because I'll be honest, that part of the story kind of threw me for a loop. I was generally surprised by that. But Akechi, no, not at all. I was honestly waiting for the game to pull a fast one on me. They're like, just kidding, Akechi's actually a good guy and there's some other person behind him, but no, he's just the traitor. I was just kind of like, okay. I'm not really sure why the game tries to build up of these like, oh my god, who's the killer, because
it really wasn't really that hard to see that Akechi would backstab you anyways, so what's the point?
Now, the one thing that did catch me a little bit by surprise is that Akechi dies and stays dead, or at least as far as we know. I'll be honest, I was a tad disappointed not getting any kind of closure with his character near the end of the game, but I think that's for maybe one possible reason, and this is speculation, keep that in mind. But I would definitely not mind having Akechi live as an alternative ending to a possible Persona 5 Extended Edition, because during that whole encounter and whatnot, it is heavily implied that he dies, but we actually don't see it, and we don't see him after, and his fate is really left to a mystery. I think having a Akechi Palace in a possible Persona 5 Extended Edition would be a great idea. I totally would not mind that. Kind of like how Persona 4 Golden added Marie's dungeon somewhere near the end. I think doing that with Akechi's dungeon would feel a lot more natural to the story, because they did leave his death kind of a mystery, and there is not much closure for his character near the end. So that would be a massive opportunity for him to capitalize, mainly because he is definitely one of the more interesting and complex characters, and I consider Akechi to be more of the true villain than the actual main baddies. And to give all the Akechi peeps their lovely boy back with the long locks and the nice clothes and the murder. But Akechi being the traitor and his death is definitely not the biggest plot twist in Persona 5. No, that definitely has to go to the Igor twist that I have mixed feelings about. So if anyone's been following the channel for a long time, you know that I was clamoring on about not being spoiled for Persona 5 because it's such a story-heavy game, and experiencing a Persona for the first time blind is really important to me. Well, I actually got spoiled on the game, I think about 2 weeks before it came out. Some egg tweeted at me and, revealed the big Igor twist, and obviously I was not happy about that, but I managed. Now, as someone who knew about the twist before it was revealed, looking back on it, it's kind of obvious, mainly because of how drastically different Igor's voice is. It's a major red flag if you play the other Persona games, because we know he's not supposed to sound like that. However, Atlus decided to change up Igor's voice actor in Persona 5, and as someone who's followed the series, it's like, okay, this is a very, very bizarre artistic choice. It's different, and a lot of people would say that Igor's voice in Persona 5 is not well cast and blah, 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 blah. In fact, it was very funny when P5 came out, people were complaining that Igor's new voice was not fitting at all. It was weird, they didn't like it, and it goes to show that people fell into that trap. They just thought that Atlus decided to change up his voice for no freaking reason at all, and didn't bother to get a proper sound-alike. But as we all know, that wasn't the case. It is a big twist hiding in plain sight, because the Igor that we are dealing with is a fake. It's actually God, once again, disguised, and the puppet master and all that crap. And then once he has his little spiel and song and dance, we meet the real Igor, who has his voice from the previous games. Now, if Persona 5 was your first experience with the game, then Igor's voice does not stand out at all. People just assume, okay, this dude just has a really deep voice, but if you have played the previous games, it is suspicious. And the fact that there is an actual plot relevance to his voice change, I think is nice. I think it was a good kind of bait and switch. It was definitely unexpected and a bold choice, to say the least, especially Atlus getting flack for a long time that they don't like Igor's new voice. But the voice is honestly just a minor detail of the big reveal that Igor is fake, but I'm not 100% on board with it. Now, that's not to say I don't think the twist is bad. I think Igor's twist is a massive one, hidden incredibly well, but the question is, does Persona 5 really need a big, massive twist? And personally, I don't think so. You see, Persona 4 is a game that revolved around truth and mystery, therefore a reveal is kind of needed since that's the theme, finding the truth, getting past all the crap. But Persona 5 seems to be also a whodunit kind of thing going on, but that doesn't really play into the game's themes all too well. Persona 3 doesn't really have a twist build-up, even though there are some reveals, but it's not really a main focus, they just kind of happen casually, because the game's theme is about dread and death, something that happens a lot, and the main story plot points focus on that. Your goal is straightforward throughout most of the game. That's why I'm not really into Persona 5's big twist, because I don't think it needed them, considering the setup and the situations. Now, Joker resisting Igor's offer of control is definitely more in line with the theme, but how we get here is a little try-hard, if you ask me. It's not bad whatsoever, it just seems a little forced and could have been done differently to better serve the theme. I just don't think this big elaborate hoo-ha-ha twist is necessary. I really like it when Persona does new things with its overarching plot, and Persona 5 hits a lot of the same beats as Persona 4, and the murder twist and Igor's reveal does not help that whatsoever. And I understand where I'm being a little wishy-washy as to where Persona 5 should be more like Persona 4. I always joke that Atlas could never really let go of Persona 4, and seeing little threads of the game make its way into P5 is a little funny to me, and I'm not like, oh, super offended by it. I mean, I love Persona 4 like everybody else. It seems a little bit like Persona 4 made the template to how to make a good game, and P5 was cheating a little bit. But then again, why fix what isn't broken? At this point, this is just me screaming into the void about stuff that doesn't really affect anything down the line. Although, the one thing that I can definitely say P5 took inspiration from P4 with is the animal mascot character, because Teddy was so popular. But when it comes to deviating yourself from Persona 4, I do prefer how Persona 5 handled Morgana's origins as compared to Teddy, mainly because they're in the same league, they don't really know who they are, they're an animal character, they got some wacky quirks going on with them, yada yada yada. But they give Morgana a lot more reason to be there and for him to know the things that he knows and to do the things that he does. He actually does serve a major importance to the plot, and his origins are just more fleshed out. It's better than Teddy, because Teddy just appeared one day. He's just, you know, a happy accident, but Morgana has purpose. So yeah, you know, P5 1, Persona 4 0, ooh, just an observation. I'm just saying, I do like that a lot more than Teddy's origin story. All in all, that kind of wraps up some of the bigger plot points and some of the things I wanted to dive deeper into. Now, there is obviously a ton of stuff that I missed, but if I kept going, we'd be here all freaking day. And there's definitely some plot points in Persona 5 that take priority over others, but there is a handful of tiny stuff that I just kind of want to point out. If anyone's got any questions, comments, concerns, let me know. So yeah, welcome to random crap that I noticed in Persona 5 Lightning Round. Okay, so first things first,
How the did Haru get into the metaverse? It is never mentioned, nor is it understood how Haru got in the first place. It could have been, you know, that she followed Morgana, but then we have a few questions that rise. Why the would she follow a random cat for no reason? She can't even hear him talk. Why would she have a reason to do so unless she had some really big fascination with cats? Also, how did she half-ass her awakening? How did she only awake her persona halfway? I want to know. Atlas, explain!
Before Persona 5 came out, I said that I really wanted a ton of Catherine references in Persona 5, and you know what? The game did not let me down. We got the coffee trivia, we have Sojiro in general, we have the sheep toys in the arcade, they use a lot of Catherine music in the movie theater. They're subtle little Easter eggs, I like them a lot. Also, I do appreciate that the game did not go overboard with Persona 4 or 3 references. They're subtle, I like it when Persona's subtle about those things. Please do not shove them in our face. They're nice, they're there for fans. Very, 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 very good. I like it, Atlas, keep it up. One thing that I found incredibly funny after a while and has been memed to high heaven, and I found it slightly annoying on top of that, is every time that you get a new social link, or I'm sorry, confidant, you cut back to the investigation room with Saya. And you know what? It was cool the first time, not so much after the 4th or 5th time. It's just funny at that point. And I think the funniest part about it was how much they were stretching the importance of each confidant. Like, she slams her hands on the table and like, who are you playing video games with that one kid? Because that's so important when you're committing borderline terrorist attacks, am I right? How many egg salad sandwiches can you fit in your butt? Granted, I can understand why they kept doing this. It's because they tried to remind the audience that we are not living in the present. We are living in the story that Joker is telling. So good job, Atlas, on trying to remind us how the story is being presented. Okay, moving on. Okay, now this one's gonna be a smidgen controversial, but who cares? Dating your teacher is gross and bad. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you. I don't like the fact that you can do this in the game. I understand it's a Japanese game and, you know, power fantasies and all that crap, but it's uncomfortable, okay? I mean, if this was a female teacher with a male teacher, it's really creepy, and I don't care. Gender's not relevant in this one. It's weird. The one saving grace when it comes to dating Kawakami is maybe how you mentally view yourself in the game. I've noticed there's 2 types of players. The first type is people who roleplay as Joker, as a 16-year-old boy, and their decisions is based off of what they think the protagonist would do. This is how I personally play the game. I don't particularly project myself onto Joker, I just see Joker. That's why I find the teacher thing kinda creepy, because I don't see myself, a 22-year-old person, dating the teacher. I see a 16-year-old dating the teacher. And obviously the other side of the spectrum is people who see themselves as the protagonist. They are role-playing as themselves in this situation. Joker is not real. Joker is a sweaty person holding a controller with Dorito dust on their fingers, okay? That is what we are dealing with. And in that case, it fine, I guess, if you want to date the teacher. If you personally would date the teacher IRL, then go for it. That's fine. I'm still judging you a smidgen. But that's really the only way I can view people dating Kawakami as not weird. So yeah. Moving on, though. One tiny thing I did notice about the game, and I don't know if anyone else picked up on this. In Personas 3 and 4, about halfway into the game, the day-to-day soundtrack will change. In Persona 3, it's this.
I've never felt like so meant to love or
To this. And then in Persona 4, it's this. To this. Persona 5, however, does not do this, and I'll be honest, I was a tad disappointed by it. I think Persona 5 has incredible music, and I was waiting for the day-to-day soundtracks to be switched up. But no, it's the same music throughout the whole game. Not sure why this happens. I am a little sad about it, but did anyone else pick up on this? Like, at all? I'm just curious if I was the one who noticed, because it was super apparent right away. And I guess the big thing, and something I mentioned that I wanted in Persona 5, was gay love options. They are not here at all. And this is something that people who maybe don't understand the series is like, why do you care so much about gay love options? I personally don't. I really don't care. And we're not expecting them to just come out of the blue. That would be weird. It's like, yeah, put gay love options into a game that has never dove into that kind of stuff before. Some people kind of view it that way, that like people are just clamming at Atlas to put in pandering stuff. But the reason why people were upset about it is because of Persona 4. Persona 4 covers some very quote-unquote taboo topics, especially about Kanji's sexuality, Naoto's gender. At some point, apparently, Yu and Yosuke were supposed to kiss as an option in their social link, but they decided to cut it at the last second. So that's why people were expecting Persona 5 to take the plunge, if you will. People thought that because Persona 4 was willing to bring these topics into their story, that Persona 5 would just go along with it. But to everyone's surprise and mine, they didn't at all. Which is kind of perplexing to me, because at this point, you know, having gay love options in a game is not like unheard of. It's not exactly brand new. And, you know, 2017, Persona 5 doing this would not be considered a big risky move. And I'm not like, you know, gonna have all the answers as to why they didn't do this. No, I don't think Atlas is homophobic. I think it has to do with a cultural thing. Japan just does not feel the need to do this stuff. They don't think their story really calls for it. The East does not really feel the need to push the status quo when it comes to gay representation. They're a lot more lax about it, because over in the West, you know, we gotta get everybody in there and stuff. Variety and diversity and all that crap. There's a huge push for it out here. So I'm just guessing Atlas's mindset is, no, we're not putting gay love options in the game because our main character does not have those feelings about men. That's the only way I can honestly rationalize this. And like I said, I don't actually care about this kind of stuff, but it is a missed opportunity considering Persona 4 did introduce a lot of this stuff, and Persona 5 had an easy opportunity to capitalize on it. Tis a shame, tis a shame. It ain't gonna stop those fanfictions though, that's for sure. Now, there are some tinier details in the game that honestly escape me at this point, but that's where you guys come in. Fill in the blanks and stuff. If there's tiny things that you notice about the game, little nitpicks, please, again, let me know. So that kind of wraps up my spoiler view of the game, but the one thing that I think is important to take away from Persona 5 is the impact this game has had on the JRPG community. 2017 has been an incredible year for JRPGs, and Persona 5 is no exception. If anything, this has really revamped a lot of people's love for JRPGs, and for some people, this is their first introduction to a massive JRPG. And Persona 5 has set an incredible precedent not just for JRPGs, but for other games in the Shin Megami Tensei franchise. P5 is the best-selling Persona game in the franchise, and it's only gonna get bigger from here. And it's going to be very interesting to see where they take the series, and I stated in my spoiler-free review, I am not sure how they're going to top Persona 5's scale and design and themes, because it all mesh so well. Everything about P5 is iconic from top to bottom, and I'm very eager to see where they are going to take the plethora of Persona 5 spin-offs we are guaranteed to get, and also Persona 6. As we all know, the director responsible for Persona 3, 4, and 5 is stepping down, and his predecessor is taking over, so Persona 6 has the potential to really shake things up. The consistency in Persona is definitely one of the more admirable aspects of it, so this is going to be a major shake-up to the foundation of the game. Kind of how the massive leap between Persona 2 and 3, maybe the leap between 5 and 6 is also going to be something to take notice of. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed my disjointed rambles, like I said, a little all over the place, and some of this stuff is, correct me if I'm wrong, how about that? This is a discussion video after all. But if you made it this far, pat yourself on the back, wake up, get out there. Toodles. You ever think about how amazing it is that you have so much to say about a thing that lights up on a TV screen with the beep boop colors and all that crap? Well, that's how I feel tonight. Anyway, thank you all so much for sticking around. A wonderful thank you to Shenpai for making a guest appearance. For those who don't know, Shenpai has recently gotten to the Persona games. Shen does incredible edits of her first playthrough of the Persona games, and she is completely enamored with the series. On top of that, she also has a stream archive with her first-hand experience with the game, so please go ahead and check out Shen if you love her enthusiasm, and also if you crave that buttery smooth lingo. And let's not forget that the bills don't pay themselves. This channel is brought to you by GameFly. GameFly is a great cheap service to rent out games at a low price, so you don't waste $60 on trash you regret buying. If you click down at the link below, you get a 30-day free trial of GameFly, which means you can rent out games for 30 days for free. Keyword free. Treat yourself. Get something nice, alright? Games are freaking expensive, and so is money. Other than that, go ahead and check out my social medias. I got a Twitter, I got a Twitch, I got a whatever the heck, I don't know, links down below. Click on one of those freaking links. It's literally 9 in the morning. I have not slept. Get out, click a button, go ahead and check out Shen's content. She too screams about Persona. I know, what a world we live in. Anime boys are taking over. Get out, that's it, bye-bye.